thought I'd show you a few things as I'm working. I'm usually traveling, so my pencils and the rest of my kit goes in here. I've got a little paintbrush, and I've got the colour theme, the tone. I always stick with this colours for gardening. This is my little water pot and my favourite pencil sharpener, which I've probably had for decades. This is an eraser inside a rule. But today, because I'm not travelling, I can lean on this as well. Saves, because I'm at that stage now, I don't really want to ruin this. I want to keep working on layers of colour. I want to show you what not to do, as well as what to do. So in here it's pretty flat looking because there's no shadow. I want to add a little bit of shadow. I'm just going to check that that's dry, because there's a wet section up here. Yep, it's dry. I don't want to smudge too much. I'm going to come in here with some shadow. I like purple for shadow. Or I can use black or dark brown. I'm actually making a map, concept map or drawing for yellow tape for the students to pick it to bits. So this is not going to fit, that's wrong, because they're certificate 3. And the beauty of certificate 3 is they're going to have the skills to implement a design and probably do a design, because the truth is any permaculture design is better than none. And I've been reading a text recently by a Canadian guy called Water for Permaculture. I can send you the link in the comments, I guess. I'm putting in some more shadow. And the sun is that way, right? I always like to have the perspective of a design these days when I'm designing that shows solar axis. That's something smaller there. That's just like a little bridge that I've put in. Whereas this is going to have deeper shadow because there's shrubs and trees, small trees here. They're going to have deeper shadow. I kind of like this dry roughness. I don't want to make the concept painting too pretty and too perfect. I've seen a lot of really beautiful permaculture designs, and sometimes I've accidentally done something pretty good. But I need this design to be pretty rough, and I'll tell you why. When something is rough, concept drawing is rough, the viewer starts to take control and they start to say, no, that's pretty rough, I'm not sure what she means there, I think that this would work. So they start to look for goals instead of fixtures. The only thing that I'd like to have really quite clear in this is a few goals, such as the whole thing needs to be wheelchair accessible. So these are going to become wheelchairs later. So there's some compromises I might need to make in the design. I'm not sure that the wheelchair will get through here smoothly. And then up here, this is a turnaround, and then they can come along there. And the other thing that I wanted to make quite clear in this particular design is water flow. So I've got water coming down this site. I'm going to show that with a little bit of blue, add a bit of blue at the back of the seating and the steps here. I'm going to bring the blue down in here, and this is going to become bluer. So the darker the blue, the wetter the section. And then I need to actually put in some underground piping here because I don't want my path to get wet. I know this is on pretty fine clay, so once it gets wet, this wheelchair access is going to be difficult. And why make things difficult? So this needs to be very carefully planned. This particular path here, either plan it or abandon it and just have the wheelchair go around. But at this point, I would just like to keep the whole site wheelchair accessible. And I want to direct the water into this area here to pool it. I've got a secondary source of water. Here's a roof. I'm going to take that water underground slightly into a reservoir. I'm going to bring that down underneath. I'm going to draw on this in pen later to explain things. I'll provide a legend as well. Here, the orange is a good colour for paths because it gives the illusion of dryness. And so here I want this to stay fairly dry. And in here I'm going to have a mound to direct any water that falls on this path into here. And this is of an area that will grow vines. So it's also a windbreak. Over here, I'm going to keep the green fairly yellow because I want it to indicate that this is fairly dry. Mediterranean type plants, things that like full sun, can go here because I'm keeping the solar access. It's a bit of a sun trap and it's a bit of an amphitheatre. Right, so that's how that design works. So I'm going to show you what not to do with the paint, I guess. My little water pot. It's always a good idea to work from the light colour area to the dark. Now let me just show you the opposite. I'll ruin this for a minute. If I start going this way, do you see where the water first went just then? It actually pushes paint away. That's the beauty of watercolour. So now I have to do the right thing, push it back, then it gets harder because I went the opposite way at first. So just keep that in mind when you're working. If you want this soft edge on something, see how malleable the watercolour paint is. I kind of like that roughness there. But because I'm talking about wheelchair access, I don't want it to look like an obstacle just here. Shadows are not usually lying around like sticks, so I'm going to take it just to be sure that it looks like a shadow. And see, it actually gets darker in there. That's nice. I'll just do it in here. I really want this to be dark, this area here. There's no loss of light. There's a lot of pathway, so we can throw a lot of shadow onto that. It's different. Designing for a demonstration site is really quite different than designing for a client who will be on site the whole time, gets to know the site and learn the risks and learn where the path is. Yeah, that's going nicely. A little bit ugly there, but as you can see, this area is dry in here, right? So you can actually still come back later and move the colours around. This is my favourite tool, pencil sharpener. I'll show you why. They're still going for that abstract, imperfect look. Now, take that outside, throw that down. It's a good idea to keep some white, not make the whole illustration coloured, because once you've lost that white, you can't get it back. Clean that off. Oh, I forgot to put the paintbrush in my head. Okay, here we go. And that's a bit murky because still got colour in my brush from the orange. This is going to be a bog, not a pond, because for this particular design, a bog, as in a very wet patch, would be a lot more valuable in terms of what can grow and have a lot less risk than a pond or a small dam. There is a difference between a pond and a dam. A pond doesn't always have water coming to it, doesn't always harvest from the landscape. A dam intercepts water flow and it harvests. And that's, hopefully this is a bit of a boggy dam. This is not going to have a hard and fast wall, it's just going to leak water to these plants here. So I need that edge to be discernible, really. Takes a while because this is not proper watercolor paper. It's just children's painting paper. I don't want to promote the use of expensive things. Be adaptable. Alright, there you go. Maybe we'll work in here too, because that looks too harsh. I'm working in this is a little reservoir in the design. If I keep putting water into the middle, it'll push the paint outwards. I can show you that. Let's do this here. Oh no, we'll do something multicolored. Let's do that one then. Stay right away from the wet stuff. Check what colour this is. Don't want that. tricky. You have to wait. Sometimes if you want to angle it, you might need to you have to keep the edge dry. That's the secret. Don't try and do two trees right next to each other, because that will bleed across. Just do every second one, or keep them at a distance. I don't know if I said before, I'm trying to do the angle of the sun as my perspective, so I've got more yellow on this side. Don't be afraid to go outside the line. Where did that purple go? Oops, I think I've done the wrong one. I'm going to show you why not to put colour into a wet area. Because it really sticks out. Can you see that? It's really sticking out. It draws it out. I mean, you can use that technique if you like that, but it's a bit harder to control. If you want a blend, you're going to get a hard line. Maybe that's what you want. It's fine, as long as you know what you want. Can look, I can get down and I'll have a look on this side. You can see that's still really wet. You can see a shine on stuff. Whoops, don't do that. It's starting to run. You can come along with the tissue. Okay, so let's say I want that effect of, I know that's wet in there. Oh, that's those shavings. This is very crude. Don't show this to a watercolor teacher. She'd be horrified. Don't show it to my teacher. She was already horrified. When you put in bits of dark, you're not actually putting in plants. You're putting in shadows. And when you think of it that way, it makes it much more difficult in a way. Right, there's a few techniques for you to play with.